tanya or the yam, and you
Mm-hmm.
bring it down, and that was a pot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so easy. But now you move from buying, and I'm living in a world where we used to buy bread for penny. That's 2 cents.
Not no.
And now the
Not
bread,
no.
look at where the breads are. And you ask yourself the question, has things gotten so much more expensive? We need price control in this country, and definitely we do need price control in this country, because I think the Jamaicans are accustomed to paying a lot of money, because Jamaican currency is very low,
Mm-hmm.
and so you pay $400 for bread.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that is, when you come to think, it's about $1 or $2
Yeah.
for bread, and so they still come out with that high money concept. So when you come and they start the price, you still price potatoes for $5 and $6.
Mm-hmm.
The Guyanese are doing the same, because the currency is so small, and they,
Mm-hmm.
they're accustomed to quote these big money. So you think that they come back with the same mentality, but we have to seriously look into it, and we have to start to agriculture department have to start to sit down with the planters and explain to them, that area of marketing and pricing, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's becoming super ridiculous.
It is.
Then you have to say, yeah, we're going to wait for the boats to come in from Dominica and St. Vincent, because then the prices are cheaper. Or you go into the supermarket where they import the potatoes,
Yeah.
and you buy them cheaper, and the vendors are going to sit there, and our local farmers are going to sit there with their produce, because you can't afford to buy
Yeah,
it.
you can't encourage people to go into an industry when you haven't figured out how to properly regulate the industry.
And if we
You're going to
want,
cause problems.
definitely, and if we want to do better, as we claim, say, because we have to.
We
It's
have
not
to.
that we want to at this time, we are forced to. The world has changed. I told you in 2019, the world ended in 2019. The
The
world
way
that
we
we
know it.
knew.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a new world. And we are doing things have been done differently. And if we are to survive, one of the things that we have to seriously start looking at is eating little and live long. And that was one of our the statements that when I was growing up, my mother said you have to learn to eat little and live long. And we have to come back to the same thing where
Mm-hmm.
we have to, these high prices, people are making oils. And when you ask them,
Yep.
what's your bottle, $150, give me a break.
Listen, it's so hard to buy flour that is not white flour. Like if you try to buy cassava flour, any other flour, just to try and change your diet or eat better, it is so expensive.
And
Oh
it's
my
so easy to
gosh.
do, because you buy a machine for about 69 US dollars. You dry the product, you put it in a machine, and it comes down to flour, nothing else to it. It's absolutely nothing else, because I do
Yeah.
that. Or you have a decent blender, and you get the grains that are dried, and you put them in your blender, and it grinds it to flour, and it's as simple as that. But when you go into the supermarkets, and people are saying that you have to learn to eat healthy, if you're going to eat healthy, don't go.
I don't know if they've seen the eat healthy prices.
Trust me. But you don't even go, because they say they're gluten free and everything is so healthy. But then read a little more if you have an understanding of things that pose problem, like carrageenan and what it does to your stomach lining and all, because we don't know. So because it marks gluten free, which is what people use for advertising purposes, that's what they use to get you to buy. So a lot of times you're moving from thinking that people are not using sugar, but they're using alternatives,
Artificial
Splenda,
sweeteners.
artificial sweeteners, which pose much more problems to your health system.
Yeah.
So they're not using sugar, which is much more healthier than they're much healthier than.
I don't know if it's much more healthier, but
It is. It is. Sugar, unless it is white sugar, which is overly processed, brown sugar is natural. People don't know that. It is very natural. But everybody has this hype that sugar is bad. There are people, my grandmother, my great aunt, they lived on sugar all their lives. Diabetes was not so prevalent, so we know it's not just the sugar that
oh no, it's
posing it.
definitely not just the sugar.
Exactly. So we are moving from eating, because they say sugar is bad, so don't eat sugar.
And you know what's funny, right? I was watching a documentary one time, and it was explaining why we moved from seeing carbs as the
Enemy.
to sugar,
Yeah.
and it was so funny that when they did this switch to try to, you know, deal with the health issue, it caused a bigger one. Like the obesity rate went way up. So I don't know if I don't know if they did the correct thing.
We know, this is big base because I have a thyroid problem, and I'm going to say it. Yeah, people look at me, oh, so you're so fat. Yeah, I'm good, healthy, and glad. Fat is the thing right now. When you stim, you have cancer. Everybody look at that. But that's not it. But I do have a thyroid problem, and I you know what the issues are, because people look at you and they don't even know what you're going through.
I ranted about this yesterday. I fully understand.
Yeah, and so, but there are a lot of things that triggers that. Your thyroid is responsible for a lot of things: metabolism, it's hormones, all of the good stuff. And again, your liver has to be working the way it's supposed to be working. And we don't have an understanding of how our body works. And there are lots of foods that we eat that poses problems. Stop your body from absorbing, stop your fight. Affects your thyroid and poses all of the problems that we are facing today. And it's based on the foods that we're eating. I listened to an interview with Bill Gates, and they said to him, why? Because he's saying in the year 2026, 2025, 2026, cancer would be eradicated. Basically, they're coming up with a system or drug or whatever it is that would get rid of cancer. And one of the statements that he made is that our bodies are natural, and the problems that we are having is that we are eating foods that are genetically modified. Wait for this. And so therefore, what he's saying, because our bodies are natural, we cannot absorb genetically modified food because it's for us when our bodies it's alienated to us. It's alien to us. So we can't it doesn't know what to do with that food. So what they're gonna do, if your natural body cannot eat genetically modified food, then they're gonna genetically modify your body so that you eat the foods and then you won't have the problems of cancer and all the other sicknesses that we're experiencing. So welcome to the future.
That's an interesting way to
It
fix
is.
the problem.
It is. It is a very interesting way.
Oh,
and
dear.
a lot of us don't read enough. A lot of us, we are not in tune to what is happening around us because everybody comes up, it's a conspiracy theory.
Everything is a conspiracy.
Yep.
Wow.
And we have to learn to become a lot more analytical.
We need to be.
We are too gullible, number one. Everybody just spoon feed you with information that they want you to have. And what do? You take it and you make it this story.
And especially since we have social media where everybody is an expert in anything without even having any type of experience. They just, because I have social media and I can type, I know what I'm talking about. And people just run with things off of social media on a day-to-day basis. They don't back check, they don't fact check, they don't wait for reliable sources. They see it, no picture, no link, no nothing. They get it in a WhatsApp or they see it on a post on Facebook and it's automatically believed, which is very dangerous.
And that is one of the reasons why we have to stop. I've said it, and it's always been a very controversial statement, and people look at me and say, Sandy, why you say things like that? But it's a fact. I think education, not education, but the school systems that we're in, information that we are fed, it was designed to control us.
You were listening to ILNT yesterday.
No, I wasn't.
It had to be because this is exactly what we spoke about.
Oh, well, I see. That's because you were talking the truth. I only speak truth. So now I know. And people who listen to ILNT have an understanding that what they were saying was really true. But it's a fact that what we do is we are limited. You see people go away to study and they want to be an accountant. When you come back, you're just an accountant. And that is the field that you can work. And I've looked at that since I was growing up as a child. And I always applied the jack of all trade. Me, I'm Jill of all trade. Mistress of none. It's a jack of all trade, master of none. But I've always wanted to know. In every field, in everything in life, I want to get to know. I don't want to be bogged down into one area. And that is one of the things because I see people sitting at home with master's degree in accounting, master's degree in economics, master's degree in some subject, and they can't seem to find a job. Yeah. Because of the fact that that's what they're qualified. Yep. And they don't want to work otherwise because that is what they went away to study.
Because it's hard to know that you have a loan that you work so hard to go to school and now you have to come and pay it back and the thing that you took this loan for isn't working for you. But I remember as a child, people used to tell me, oh no, you have to stick to one thing. Your mind all over the place. Because if anybody knows me, they know that I'm super hyper and I just think about 10 different things at once. But I've always been told, I was always told, no, you have to settle down and do one thing and all of these things. And I'm like, that don't make sense. That That don't make sense to me. Suppose this one thing fail.
But the world has a lot of different focus. So if you focus
a
on one
huge
thing, it's
world.
definitely, and there are lots of lots of different focus. And so if you're going to focus on one thing, then you're only in that one area. And if that one area is saturated like now, then you're going to sit home. Listen, you spend your money to get a degree in accounting. It doesn't always mean that accounting is going to pay it back. Some people have to go and start to make. I know a friend who said he has degrees. I tell him that's the crazy thing. When I have more than 37 degrees body temperature, then I'm running a fever, definitely. So that's one of the issues. But he have had, and that was one of the problems, because he went and he studied, majored in one and minored in another, and realized that when he come out, the world has changed. Not the demand is no longer that, so he gone back and he do something, and by the time he comes back, the area is saturated, and so that was one of the things. And he started to bake little goodies and had to go around and peddle his stuff in order to make ends meet and to pay back the bank. So sometimes you go to study one thing, but it's not that pays. It's other things that pay. And I always tell people, my children, you can get a degree, and I tell them that online.
You can.
That while you're doing your degree online, you're working, because by the time you come back from your studying, the areas that you want to work is filled.
But sometimes people don't even go away just because they want to just go away to study. I think it's the experience as well that you get when you go to college and when you get to travel to different countries, because if you're home all the time, like, you're only experiencing one thing. But yeah, it's difficult when you do all of this traveling, and then you come back and now you can't even put back what you took, because what you have isn't paying the bills.
That's why a lot of people who travel never came back, because they experienced too much, and they don't want to come back and work in the small country and do these small little things. But let's go back to, and we said all of this, and we have to now look and see how all of the problems that we are faced with, all of the stresses of that we are faced have caused a lot of mental anxiety, mental illness. And more sooner than later, I'm saying this, Jade, but it's a fact. You're going to have, and it's happening, we are not told about it, but it's happening. There are a lot of people who have crossed over, meaning that you're not suffering from the minor anxiety. You're not suffering from the minor depression. There are a lot of people who now wants to end it. You talk to young people and they're suicidal.
Yeah, because it's a lot to deal with. And even if you think it's not a lot for you, it's a lot for them. And you can't tell people how to feel about the things that they have to carry. So I agree, we really need to put some more resources into this. We need to, counseling
create
center.
more awareness, because, and it starts in the schools. Now we have COVID-19. The people are traumatized because children know that they were exposed to the virus. We're not giving them counseling. You put them into quarantine.
But we've never even given them counseling when we didn't have issues. That's where we should have started. I had counseling when I was a child, and my counselor is still in my life. We needed to have, like, we teach kids about maths and English and all these things, and that's fine. But what about dealing with real world problems?
But maths and English is traumatizing, huh? Why? I want to tell you why. When you sit in the classroom and you realize that some people can grasp it and you can't grasp it, it creates anxiety.
I cried.
People don't know this. And I'm going to say this because I want them to listen. When you go to school, that's where you start suffering from mental illness in the first place. You don't want to be considered a slow person. And people look at you as being slow. And some of us can grasp it easily and others can't.
Yeah.
But in the schools now, there are a lot of young children who, I remember I used to do remedial classes, afternoon sessions, and I've had some children, and the parents tell me, they're on attention deficit or the tablets, medication, because they don't behave in school. And there was one particular student who I dealt with, and one day, gave him the test and everybody else, and after I was marking them and getting ready to give the result, he became very disruptive, disrupted the class, picking people, pulling them, and I couldn't understand, why do you want to have that kind of distraction? So I called him, and he said, let's talk outside, don't talk to me in here. I took him outside. I said, why are you behaving like this? Why are you doing this? He said, because I don't want the children to think I'm stupid, because when I get them wrong, they're going to look at me and think that I'm stupid.
Yeah, and it's not that, and it's really not that. Like, that's what I mean. I don't understand why we haven't started in school with giving children the tools to deal with these kind of things.
And where there was that competition, there were these depressed children.
And you know what's funny? I thought about it recently. a lot of the times the teacher pays attention to the students,
bright students,
which
the
is
bright
which
students.
is ridiculous. If you're trying to teach children and children that are already gotten it, like they already grasped the concept, why is that the person that you're giving the most attention when there's students who need to be taught or need to be shown a different method in order to be able to get it? You have to pay attention to these children.
Well,
These are the children that need the love and the attention, because these are the children that don't get it. How are you paying attention to the children that already got it? How does that make sense? How would that help the class?
empty vessels make the most noise. I think that was one of the errors. That's a concept that I use in my life. When I wanted the attention from the teachers and I didn't want to look stupid, and I used to say things and cause distraction. I was very vocal. Used to love to talk in class.
Same.
Because why? Because it's the attention that you got.
That wasn't even my reason. My reason was because I just don't understand what's happening.
And one day I remember I was punished in class, maths class, and if he's listening, he would know why. I remember one day we were talking about pi r squared and pi this and cosine and sine, and I could not grasp the meaning of the whole thing. You were given a formula. You were saying that sine equals to such and such, pi equals to 22 over 7 or 2.14, and cosine you find based on and what is the square root. And I couldn't understand. I could not apply it to our daily life. It just did not make any sense to me. I couldn't grasp it, and I was asking the teacher, and of course I never thought he grasped it either. I think they had just taught it because they understood, when you read and you look at something for a while, it becomes that you understand what they are trying to tell, not what they're trying to tell you, but the formulas and why you do it that way. And so I'm trying to get him to explain it to me in layman's terms so I could understand, how do you apply pi and cosine and all that to normal life? How do you apply that? And maybe if I understand how you apply it to normal life,
You would
because
understand
for
the
me, I said,
formula.
what I know about cosine is when you go to the bank for a loan and
Yes,
somebody wants to help you out, they go on cosine. But that cosine does not applies to what I was learning in mathematics. And I was confused. And so I got up and I said, you know what, this is not making any sense. He asked me to leave the classroom. I said, why? He said, because you're disturbing the classroom. I said, so why, if you have a classroom of 14 or 15 or 20 children, why 2 can walk out understanding it and you don't care what happened to the others? Because as long as you're concerned, you have 2, 3, 4 bright children in class and they would understand it because they're bright and they have the analytical skills.
And it's not even that they're bright, they just
have
learn
good
differently.
analytical skills. Exactly. And so they understand faster than I am, and maybe they can apply it to something. So I said, well, why are you why am I being punished because I don't understand? He said, go out the class.
Yeah.
First he said, stand up, and then because I continued, he said, go out the classroom. I said, well, why do I have to go out the classroom? I'm trying to tell you that I don't understand what you're trying to say. And because you yourself cannot explain to me what it is you asked me to leave. Is it because you're embarrassed? And then he said, go to the office. And then I said, wow. When I went to the office, I had the discussion and I said to the principal then, I said, but this is not making any sense. Why am I being punished? Because I don't understand. You see where mental illness comes in? From school.
Yeah.
Because you have that stress, not being able to understand.
And then
the
you can't-
teachers, you can't go to the teachers because you're not in one of the bright students. So therefore, you are punished because you can't seem to understand. And these are the problems our children brings home to us on a day-to-day basis. And us as parents, we are so busy trying to make ends meet, we don't have time to listen to our children.
And to try to explain and do the job that we would hope that the teachers do, because that's where kids spend the most of the
And
time.
what they do, they go to their friends. And their friends tell them, listen, you know what I do when I have problems? I cut. I inflict harm to myself. And so when I do that, I feel better because I feel like I'm punishing myself. And we are not aware of how many children are out there causing harm to themselves because they think it's the right thing to do. So we come back to the fact that mental illness is not a joke, it's a reality. The same emphasis...
For more people than a lot of people think.
The emphasis that we are placing on COVID-19 and that virus, there are things that have been long before COVID and have not been addressed. We have to see how we're going to start to address mental illness.
And because of the virus, a lot of these things are amplified.
It is. And because of the fact we didn't treat them before, we have much more to treat. You talk about resources we don't have. We talk about the awareness. It has to start. We have to start to create the awareness that it is a reality. It's not. It doesn't have to be a pandemic for you to start paying attention to. Pandemic. When you have pandemics, you have an infiltration of mentally sick people that are coming in because they can't deal with it. They have been trying to cope since they were children. They have been overlooked, never got the proper treatment, and now that they're adults, they're placed in a situation where you have stress upon stress upon stress upon stress. You have crazy mothers who can't look after their children, and then children are become crazy because they had crazy parents, and we call them crazy.
And that is not the issue.
It is not. It is. These are people who society paid less attention to. And these are the people who could not cope with the stress of life. And that was not created by them.
And it doesn't matter your social status, your financial status. People just don't cope. So there's been so many instances where people of a social economic standing has hurt themselves because they just can't cope with all of the things that they deal with. So when people think it's, this ain't gonna happen to me because, me and this type of person, or I have this amount of money, or me from here, and it doesn't pick and choose.
But we need to start paying attention to those children out there who are really mutilating themselves. We have children out there who are going to marijuana, who just have a spliff because it helps them. When you ask them, he says, when I smoke this, I don't feel any way about it. I feel mellow and good. You have children who are abusing alcohol early because, again, it does that. They're smoking cigarettes. They gravitate to a certain group of people, and we are creating these groups. And then at the end of the day, government has to pay for peace programs because these becomes menace to society. And we have to find the source because all we're doing is putting on a Band-Aid, and sooner or later the Band-Aid is not going to stick, or you're going to run out of Band-Aids, and what do you do? So we have to start looking at where and why and how we can control mental illness. And like I said before, we have to start creating that awareness. It's as simple as that. And like everything else in life, we always look at the complex side, the complexity of the situation. We're not looking at the simplicity of, and it's always simple. Just like cancer is a complex situation, but because it came into being because your body's not nourished enough. And those are the simple things. And then after that, you start to pay all this money for chemo and radiation therapy when you know definitely you could have gone back and reset the body and feed it the things that it's supposed to be fed, and we can live life longer. But again, it comes back again, we are very gullible. The education that we have, people are wanting to control us, and they give us enough in order to control us. The little you know is the better it is for the minority, people who have money and who can control.
But before we leave, remember, people, you have to take care of your mind. Do the things that will make you feel calm. You can write out in a journal, you could read, you can meditate, you can listen to some music, eat proper food, but we have to take care of our brains.
Definitely, and we live in a country where the sunshine is free. Vitamin D is one of those moods.
The beach is there.
The beaches are
Go
there.
between curfew.
Yeah, vitamin D enhances the mood. That's the sunshine. I'm not telling you to take anything. Go sit in the sun. We are black people. We have to stay in the sun longer because our body doesn't absorb as well as it should. So let's sit in the sun and make sure that we get the vitamin that we need. We go sit. The seawater is filled with minerals. The body, if we claim say we came from the earth, it means that we are mineral dense. And as we grow older, we lose that. So go swim in the seawater. And that is one of the reasons why we would have had so many cases. 49, I think, cases of COVID, and all 49 cases have recovered. And most of them were symptomatic because of the fact that we are healthy people and we just need to continue doing. So it was a pleasure. I have overrun my time, Jade. I asked you just to come in and sit with me. It was beautiful. It was. I'm happy that you accepted my invitation.
Anything for you,
Anything for me. I'm so grateful for that. But it's a beautiful Friday. I can see from the outside. The sun is out in all its glory.
Definitely.
We know it's not as hot because the rain was out early this morning. It was so good. We hear the pitter-patter on the roof. I know it was June.
It wasn't. I needed it to be longer, though.
Yeah, God gives you. We have to we have no patience. God give us.
Hello,
a little
Guyana
bit
have
of
all the rain right now,
we're gonna get some. We
All
don't want
right.
too much rain because sooner or later Ghana is gonna cry. We have too much rain.
They're already crying, but that's a
See?
conversation
So
for
let's-
another day.
Yeah, so let's wait and see. God gives us as much as we want, we need. We always want to satisfy our wants and our desires and not what is absolutely necessary for life. And I just want to live a simple life, a happy life, and a life of love. And I would admonish you that if you start loving your neighbors as yourself, you'll start looking out for them, and we would come down on those prices for $19 a pound for fish, $5 a pound
Oh,
for
dear.
potato. Why, Lord? Before I start preaching, I think I'll just look at the time and realize that I overspent my welcome. Enjoy the weekend. It's a beautiful Friday, but please adhere to protocols. Wear your mask, social distancing. And
Sanitize.
sanitize. Thank you. And we have done that, and we have controlled the flow of COVID. Let us continue to do that. It's a simple, like I said, the simple things of life are the things that makes life even so exciting. So just do the simple things, and then we won't have to succumb to all the other expensive things. My name is Sandra Quilliat, and it was a pleasure. Stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. Voices is up next.